Do you desire to lose weight, learn good practices of self-care, and become the best version of yourself today? Stay tuned for this episode of SpirLift. Life throws us daily challenges. Living with depression or anxiety can strip us of our joy. At SpirLift, our goal is to provide helpful insight to make your life's journey easier. Welcome to SpirLift, a journey to a better you. Before we get started in this episode of SpirLift, if you enjoyed the content, please consider giving us a thumbs up. And if you want to be informed each and every time we upload new episodes on themes that we are passionate to share with you, such as spirituality, health and nutrition, motivational and inspirational videos, then please remember to subscribe to the channel and, very importantly, hit the notification bell down below, as this will directly inform you the moment each new episode is uploaded. Lastly, please consider commenting throughout this episode, as your feedback helps let us know how we can continue creating valuable content for you. Tyler, do you truly believe that if I'm someone who has battled either anxiety or depression for most of their life and am unwilling or mentally reluctant to have the will to change my situation and are also physically dealing with being overweight, that I can truly change my state of being? And if so, how would I go about starting to do that?
Well, yes, I think absolutely you can. We all hold that power within us to make real change in our lives. The first thing is to work with the mind, and then that changes the body. So it starts with our mindset. It starts with mindfulness practices. It starts with telling ourselves that we can do it, because if we believe that we can't, if we're telling ourselves every day that we can't, that's not going to give us the motivation to get moving and to start doing it. And honestly, I've worked with so many people who are self-sabotaging themselves from the very beginning, and it's important to love yourself in the entire process. If you're coming from a place where you think you can't do it, you don't like where you are, but you think you can't do anything else, you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're going to be right. You're going to be right. You can't do it, but you can, and you got to tell yourself that you can.
And, from all of our viewers and listeners, what Tyler's saying is so important, because look, it's got to start with the way you think, the way you believe in yourself, the way you see life, and it all starts from that. And I know for a lot of people out there, this is not a difficult thing to do or start right away, depending on where you are and how you feel about yourself. But I think for this episode of SpirLift, it's going to be so valuable. Speaking of Tyler, who is, from the US, she is a holistic specialist certified in personal training. She's a nutrition coach, group fitness, and Pilates. So she's the whole package as far as holistic, well-being and training for people, and teaching and coaching. She's also professionally trained in yoga since 2015. She's trained to do Zaito scans, which I just found out what that is, and it's quite impressive, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, Tyler. And she has a business called Evolve, and she helps her clients discover their truest self and evolve into the people who they were meant to be. So I think we're all searching for that, Tyler. And yes, what you're speaking about when it comes to mindset is absolutely imperative. So let's start there. Let's say, I'm a person in a situation, and I've battled maybe, let's say, anxiety or depressive related issues for a lot of my life. And maybe, unfortunately, depending on where I've been with a lot of things I've had to deal with, I've had to take different pills or supplements, and I can't get off them. But, we got to start thinking about, if we're in these situations, like, what can we do right now with ourselves to really just take that initial step? So when people come to you, Tyler, and they are saying, hey, Tyler, I'm in this state and then in this situation, what are the first things you speak to them about, just to get them on the path where you think they should start going?
Well, I think I mean, it depends on the client, first of all, and what their goals are. But I think a big thing, like I said, it does start with that mindset. So I can tell you to get moving and I can tell you to eat the right foods, but the words you speak to yourself matter, and if you're beating yourself down every time you look in the mirror, it's gonna tear you down and you're gonna feel less motivated. And then if you break what you were trying to do, you eat a cupcake or something, you're so hard on yourself and it throws everything out the window, right? And so I do tell clients a lot, one of my favorite exercises that I give them, not physical fitness but mindset exercise, is because a lot of us are in such a state that we can't even say something nice to ourselves and really believe it. Like positive affirmations are huge, but you kind of have to believe them. So if you're like, I am the most incredible person in the world, and you don't believe it, like, you can keep saying it to yourself, but you have to take it into your heart. So I actually tell people to start with neutral statements. And so,
Can you explain what that
I give
is?
them this exercise where they go in the bathroom and look in the mirror, and it's not, yeah. So they go in the bathroom, they look in the mirror, and it's not, if I was looking at me, it's not, I am beautiful, because maybe I can't say that to myself yet because I've been telling myself for so long that I'm ugly. But maybe I can start with, I have brown hair. I have hazel eyes. I, weigh this weight. I wear this size. And it's not a negative connotation, like not I'm overweight, or not that that's even like a negative connotation, because that's just like a fact. We don't need to beat ourselves up with that. But if you're thinking that that's a negative, like, don't say that to yourself, but it's just like, I, have a body, I am this skin tone, I have, whatever it is, and just saying these neutral statements and just getting yourself out of the mindset of looking in the mirror and telling yourself negative statements. And then from there, it's easier to transition into the positive one. So it's this slow process of changing the mindset, but it's really effective and it really does help.
No, that is so important and incredibly important to implement, no matter, I think, where you are with the way you feel each and every day, and start at least right away. Because I think a lot of people, like you said, I think there's at times a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-sabotaging with the way we see ourselves, the way we perceive our life. And we have to be the ones to at least begin the process of encouraging ourselves, right? And it all starts with us. And Tyler, I'm interested really quick, before we move on, why did you decide to start, Evolve, and why did you decide to want to, do all these incredible things that you're actually doing? What motivated you?
Absolutely. Well, so it may surprise people that I wasn't always into exercise. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. But I've had health issues since I was 10 years old. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and then it just spurred on so many other chronic diagnoses, to the point that I had 12 different diagnoses and I was on a prescription medication for every single one by the time I was 16 years old. So that was just, my life just looked just so much worse than it should have by 16. Like I felt like I should have been so much older, and I just felt terrible all the time. And the biggest problem was a lot of these diagnoses weren't even like concrete. They were just a chronic name just slapped on me because the doctors really didn't know what was going on, and they're just like, you're having a stomach issue and we don't know why, so it's IBS, and you're having pain everywhere and we don't know why, so it's fibromyalgia. And, it was so disheartening. And I was going to doctor after doctor trying to figure out what was wrong. I had the weight just slipping off of me and we couldn't figure out what to do. And eventually I went to someone for holistic health, and she introduced supplements into my life. And, I changed a lot of my diet and I started moving my body more. And I found so much relief, so much healing. And I finally found a way to love myself too, because in all of this, as my world felt like it was crashing down around me, and I'm a terrible perfectionist, it felt like I could never measure up, and it finally, like through yoga and running and things like that, I learned just how strong and capable my body was, even in these moments where I felt so weak. And I just learned to love myself in that journey. And as I got more healthy, I realized like how much I wanted to help other people who were going through similar situations. And so I got my certification in personal training. I got my certification in nutrition coaching. I started figuring out how to do Zyto scans, like you mentioned. And, I started working with people, and I named it Evolve because it has the word love hidden in it. And, so much of the fitness world is becoming this whole new you. And I'm like, well, I'm still me. I'm still the same girl I was at 16, where I was just scared out of my mind of what's going on. I feel like my body's betraying me. Like, I don't know what's happening to me. And evolving into this version of myself, into who I wanted to be, and loving myself into that new person and who I am. And I think that's so important, that love is in that process.
That is so important what you're saying, Tyler, and let us know below, viewers and listeners, if you agree with the sentiment. Put in the comments below. Do you think, Tyler, that you learned more about you and what fits for you based on your own pace? I mean, I think what you just relevated there was so important, because you were in a situation that you were going through so much in your life. There was so much that was impacting you. There was so much that was, had brought you down health-wise. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why me? Why this? Why, etc. Right? And creating a lot of ideas and ways of thinking that were doubtful, that were just negative, etc. But then you saw this person, they helped give you a kind of guiding way to help you find yourself and help you find your way. So do you think, and I think this is really true, like I think everyone has their own pace. People have to start somewhere, right? Like you got to start somewhere no matter how bad things are. But I think what you're talking about with pace and the patience for yourself to get where you want to go is absolutely important. And is that kind of like what you teach your clients, I guess?
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone moves at their own pace. And I tell people too, I mean, not only do we not all move at the same speeds, but we're terrible at comparing ourselves to other people. And we forget, like, we don't see what's behind the scenes, like so many people who know me today don't even know about all of that, so they see someone who's fit and healthy and like ran a half marathon a few weeks ago at my record time and all that. And they're like, oh, I mean, that's amazing. She must have been fit her whole life. I'm like, no, you have no idea like what the last 10 years have looked like and how much I've changed, And so I love this quote where it's like, don't compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 20, And the thing is, you just don't know. You don't know what's going on with people. It's not what it looks like on social media, the highlight reel that people post. And so focusing on you, and you are your only competition. And I tell my clients, the only person you have to be better than is the person you were yesterday, and you don't even have to be a lot better. Just pushing a little bit more, trying a little bit harder to be who you want to be.
That, I think everything you just said there is amazing, because I hate this idea of like looking for the idea of perfection, this idea of we have to get to a final destination or something. The reason we call SpirLift a journey to a better you is because the journey, like I love the ocean, I love the sea, I love being out and especially that natural environment around, let's say the ocean, right? Anything to do with water. But, and I've been on, especially at my like a younger age out at sea and on the boat and things like that. And being out in the ocean is ferocious. It can be ferocious, right? Mm-hmm. It's turbulent. There can become a storm. The ocean will eat you alive, right? But if you have a good anchor, if you have a good set course, and when the wind's blowing, you move the sails in the way in which you want and desire to go. And then at night, you see that beautiful sunset coming upon you, right? And you can enjoy it. We call SpirLift a journey to a better you because the journey is what is exciting. It's not It's not about trying to get to this final place of being or state of being or anything like that. It's about you being accepting of who you are. It's about other people, hopefully the right people, accepting you for who you are, and each one kind of applauding all of everything that you encompass. I'm this person. I have these, quote unquote flaws. I have this, I have that. I believe this, I believe that. Doesn't matter, right? If you come with the intention of love and peace, as you and I talked about off this recording, it's really all that matters,
Yeah, absolutely.
Tyler, I also want to get into some of the detail and the minutia of the ways in which you help people through Evolve, okay? And especially because there's people that I've spoken to recently who are worried about weight-related issues, okay? Who I think as well are worried about that the putting on more weight and, has a lot, is also making them feel more depressed, and they don't really, know or feel that they want to get out of the type of food that they're eating and the diets that they have right now. So what are some general, let's just say, kind of delicious substitute foods that are also really healthy that you normally recommend as diets, even for like people who are vegetarians, right? Like, what type of meal foods do you generally recommend that are good, that help keep you in shape in general, but that are necessary as essential foods for getting in better shape and also helping you feel better mentally, let's say?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll say first, you don't have to cut out anything completely. You know what I mean? And there are things that can be incorporated into your diet every day, sometimes with small substitutions, or they can be an occasional treat, so small things that you can do, like, dessert. Like, I eat dark chocolate every day. I really do. And that can definitely be a healthy substitute if you have a sweet tooth every day, instead of, and there's portion control too. So it's not necessarily like you can't have chips, but have one serving of chips, instead of eating the family size bag of chips, and so serving size is a big deal too. I'll say a lot of people, there's this big emphasis today that carbs are really bad for you. And like 20 years ago, like fat was really bad for you. And so there doesn't seem to be like continuity, and all these fad diets that come up. What I'll say is none of these foods are necessarily bad for you. It's how much you're eating of them, right? Carbs definitely fit into a healthy diet. And just making sure that you're not eating mostly carbs, right? And that the carbs that you do eat come from healthy sources like whole grains, like rice, or natural sources like potatoes, like your starchy vegetables, or from fruit, and fruit is nature's candy. I love fruit so much.
Like any
some
type
people
of
think
fruit?
I'm crazy with how
Any
much
types of
I
fruit?
love to eat fruit, but I could eat fruit all day. And there's ways to do it more, to make fruit sweeter, like, I'm sorry?
Like any types of fruit? Do you like just a mix of all types of fruit?
I love fruit. The only ones I don't love the melons. I like watermelon, but that's about the only one. But anything else is fair game. But I did a dessert once. I took a bunch of fruit and chopped it up, fresh fruit, and put it in bowls and put it in the freezer. And then I pulled it out, and I took dark chocolate and melted it with a tiny bit of coconut oil. When you do that, it makes it like kind of like melting chocolate, where it'll harden, but you can coat with it, so it's a little bit silkier. And I like swizzled that right over the fruit, and it hardened like magic shell. That was the best dessert I have ever had in my life. The frozen pineapple and grapes were just like candy. They got so sweet, and I didn't have to add any sugar. There's so many things you can do. You can get super inventive. Dates are so sweet. And if you grind them up, add a little cocoa powder, some oats, and like roll them up into little balls, like that's such a great snack, you know? So there's so many things you can do. I would say, you know, play back the carbs, incorporate healthy fats in your diet. They often say saturated fats are bad for you. Saturated fats aren't bad for you. The thing is, there's fats, right? Saturated, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats, and we're supposed to have a balance of them, right? And so we eat so many saturated fats because they're the ones that come from animal products. Don't get as many of the other ones that come from nuts and seeds and fish. So if you put an emphasis on eating those in your diet, you're probably getting enough of the saturated, you'll get that balance, you know, and that's already a healthier step. And then I tell people, put a real emphasis on vegetables. Nobody eats enough vegetables, and there's so many ways to eat them. It doesn't just like, if you really hate them and you want to like just get it out of your way, like have one big salad a day, you're done, you did it. But like there's so many ways to cook vegetables, and there's so many different types of vegetables. Like I would encourage people to put them in different dishes, like try stir fries and stuff like that, that, you know, it has the vegetables in there, but you're not focusing on like eating raw cauliflower sadly in the corner. Like you can incorporate it into meals and really enjoy it, you know? So I tell people to try different kinds because there's so many different flavors, and your taste buds will adjust. You know, it does take time, and it's hard in the middle of the day where you're grabbing for that normal snack. It takes about a month, you know, to like mindfully tell yourself, I'm going to grab this instead, you know, but then it becomes a habit and you start doing it and you start to feel better. And you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And you get excited about it and it builds momentum, you know, and my dad always says, you know, momentum is more important than motivation, because it's hard to get the motivation. But once you build up momentum, it just becomes a habit and you're just doing it all the time. And like for me, it's not even a question anymore. I know I'm going to work out first thing in the day. I don't even think about it. It's how I start my day, you know? So it's not like people ask like, how are you motivated enough to get out of the bed in the morning? It's not even like, this is just my routine. This is just what I do. It's what I've done for years, you know? So you do have to motivate yourself at the beginning, but it becomes a habit. It gets easier and you start to enjoy it. I love moving my body every morning. It's the way I wake myself up. It's the way I accomplish something first thing in my day. And then I feel like I could do anything for the rest of the day. I'm energized and I'm ready to go until my afternoon slump when I drink my coffee, you know, like I am ready to go for my day. And, you know, I think, you know, we find ways to enjoy the process. So there's definitely healthy foods. I know I've been on a tangent there, but there's definitely healthy foods you can do. Vegetables are a must. You got to get those vegetables in.
Tyler, all those types of foods that you just mentioned, you know, I think are just, you know, it's really interesting and really important that we incorporate all those type of foods into our life. I, unfortunately, am not that kind of person yet. That's why I'm still on the journey to eat better. My wife will tell you that for sure. Hopefully I'll achieve that someday. But there are certain things that I've definitely incorporated in my life as well. Some of those types of foods that you mentioned. And, you know, for me, look, I think it's important we take the steps though, right? Like when you mentioned the fruits and the vegetables, I don't like personally, I'm not a type of person who likes to eat those things raw. And, you know, for our viewers and listeners, please comment below and let us know, how do you like to eat these types of foods? And if you enjoy them, you know, personally, that would be interesting to know. But I like to put everything into the NutriBullet. For me, the NutriBullet works because I like to mix it all up and then drink it, and it tastes great, you know? So that works for me. And I like fish now, you know? So it's great to eat fish. But I think also what you touched upon is so important. And also, really quickly, viewers and listeners, check out Tyler's blog. We'll incorporate her blog and site into the description below. She has some really, really great posts on recipes and foods. Very delicious. They will make you want to eat these types of foods, so check it out. But what you're talking about is habit, right? And what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, also had to do with the mindset, right? And I think eventually, if you eat better, you will mentally feel better as well, right? And everything, I love that phrase you used about momentum. I think you're absolutely spot on when you talk about momentum, because anybody can do anything, but it's about staying the course. It's about being tenacious. It's about being persistent. And momentum is the driving force behind all of that. And I think that is absolutely amazing, that phrase you use about momentum. And I think, and I don't know how you translate this with your clients, but I think if you if you discipline yourself enough to at least get through, the first month or 2 months of these new habits, they, like you said about running and exercise and all that, you will just do it. Like, it'll become the new you, right? But you got to have that goal to have the first couple months at least to make that the new version of you, right? And that's the hardest part, because that is like the give up time. That is like the give up time period as well, right? So I'm curious as well, like with Evolve, with your company, do you do something, or do you have some kind of accountability thing where you, like, especially people who are trying to lose weight and are trying to get into these new eating habits, do you have some kind of accountability sort of program or way of doing things, so like to help people stay the course, especially when it comes to eating?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the big thing, a lot of people hire me, because they want to learn more, but also to be that kind of accountability partner for them. Like, there's some people, it's like, I know I need to go to the gym, and I just need to know that I'm going to meet with you every week. And I want to be able to tell you that I went to the gym and not that I didn't, And so, like, that for a lot of people is accountability right there. But, I've done group things where people have partners that they work with, and so they have those other people to help hold them accountable and encourage them, and then the program itself, like the way I set it up, is that you're always making some sort of progress. You're always learning something new. You're always trying something new. And so, it takes 3 months to really see a difference. They say, like, in the first month, you're going to feel it. In the second month, you're going to start seeing it, and then the third month, other people are going to see it. Like, it's a big change, and it takes like 1 month to really start building this momentum, but 3, you've really solidified this habit. And I tell clients to give me like those 12 weeks, to really work with them and help them through this journey, because at the end of those 3 months, they've built the habit, they've built the routine, they've built the momentum, and they've built the self-discipline, and they're ready to take it on themselves. And I meet with them every week or every other, just to give them more information. So by the time they're done working with me, they can, like, I'm not trying to keep them in the program. They have all the information they need to go do it themselves and hold themselves accountable.
That is powerful what you're saying, because I think there really seems to be, again, that window of the accountability time, right? Because having new habits or getting into anything new for anyone, no matter where you are or how you are going through things in your life, is not easy, especially if you're battling anxiety, depression, weight related issues, etc. It's those first few months are a grind, right? And it's everything will have to always start and end with you no matter what. But again, like the way you explain your way of, helping people stay and be accountable, and also being that amazing kind of guide and mentor as well. I mean, that's how lives change, right? I'll tell you, for me personally, like a while, some years ago, I used to smoke, and when that was not easy to stop, like, that's not easy to stop, right? It was, at that time, it was really hard. I mean, it was just like, I mean, because it's part of your routine. It's a social thing to do.
Oh, sure.
It's that's a very hard habit to get rid of, So eventually I did, and thank goodness. But also, when we're like, let's speak to the people who are interested in certain exercises as well, right? For helping with their body and also helping with the mind, because as you know, exercise is can be a huge factor in feeling positive and having mental clarity and everything else. Some of our viewers and listeners are starting yoga, for example. Are beginning yoga people, right? And, for me, I've tried yoga. I wish I could be better at it or do it better. I'm not so great, but, some of our listeners and viewers are really interested in yoga and starting, but are also curious, like, can yoga, what are the benefits of yoga, and over time, how can they really change you and also even help you lose weight?
Yeah, so yoga definitely can fit into a healthy lifestyle. It can fit into any part of the journey, but especially at the beginning, I think it's a great way to start moving your body if you haven't been, because it's gentle, right? It's not very high impact. It's not going to be hard on your joints. And, at the beginning, I mean, don't think of yoga as just super easy, because you can definitely start sweating in a yoga class, but it's a great way to stretch and strengthen your muscles. It's a great way to develop balance, which is a huge thing. If you're lifting weights, you don't want to lose your balance, that's a big part of it too. The other thing that I think is really neat about yoga is it doesn't just affect the main muscles, but it affects all the little muscles that help assist them, right? So it's not the muscles we normally work. So I've worked with full-time college athletes that come in and they're sore the day after yoga, and they're like, I'm sore in places I didn't know I could be sore, right? All those little muscles are sore because they don't normally get worked that way. And so it's a great way to condition the body. It's a great way to start using the lungs and stretch and strengthen those muscles to be ready to work out in a more intense way. And then the mind, talking about my own health journey, the first thing I did was yoga. And it does create this mind-body connection and this love for your body. You start to be able to do things that you never could. And the first time you touch your toes is amazing, and I love this quote. It's, yoga is not about touching your toes. It's about everything you learn on the way down. And that's so true about yoga. We're talking about this journey, and it is just this journey of getting to know yourself in this new way and loving yourself the whole way. Just moving your body in that way is so loving and so caring. And then at the end of every yoga practice, you're actually supposed to just lay there, and it's the savasana period. And the whole idea is that you've completely relaxed every area of your body so you can sit back and meditate and not be distracted by oh gosh, my back hurts a little bit. You can just sit and relax. And then you go into that mindful place, and you're in a place where you can now, because you're kind of tired, after doing yoga for a little bit. And just the feeling that washes over you is just quite indescribable until you've done it, and it does create that loving feeling for yourself. And I think that's such a great way to begin working out. If you're really new to working out, maybe you don't like exercising, I think that's a really great way to do it, to experience how great it feels to move your body. And then once you've developed those skills, you're like, well, maybe I'll try something else a little more intense. And I would say in everything that you try, it should be something that you enjoy. Exercise should not feel like a chore, and it absolutely is hard. It's absolutely difficult. You shouldn't be in there and oh, that was a piece of cake. It's hard, but afterwards you walk out and you feel proud and you feel accomplished, and you can honestly say I had fun in there. That was a good time. I worked hard. I'm going to feel it tomorrow, but I had a good time, and I'm going to come back tomorrow too.
And do you personally do it every day for yourself?
Every day do yoga? I used to. I need to get back into it. COVID made us all fall off, myself included. I did yoga every day without fail from the age of 13 to the age of 20. And I mean, seriously, like if I was sick, I just sat in child's pose. Like I still did I brought my yoga mat on vacation with me. I did it every day without fail. And then it became more like I was like, all right, well, I don't need to be that rigid. Like I can take some breaks. But it was really COVID that like kind of pushed me over where, you know, like everybody else, I was stressed. I was not, it's nice to move my body, that yoga classes and stuff like that, you know, but taking time for ourselves can be difficult. And, you know, I understand that with other people when they say it to me, because, you know, I struggle with it too, you know, just remembering like this time on my mat for me, not just teaching it to other people, but for me to connect with myself. And I have been trying to do it every day again. And some days I make it, and some days I don't. And that's okay, because I'm loving myself the whole time.
No, that's incredible. And I think, again, this is really about what feels right for you. What is the pace that you want to take the direction of your life, and then do it with ease and like do it with, again, like the phrase used, momentum, but at a pace that not like a bullet train. Momentum, like in the sense of what feels right for you, what feels good, what feels natural, and then just go with that kind of, you know, natural flow of things. And I think it's amazing the way you describe yoga, Tyler, because it seemed, because we're filming this actually in 2021 when there's still a global pandemic going on, and depending where you live in the world, some people still may not be able to go to studios, things like that. They may still be confined in their domicile. So, you know, I think you can actually do yoga at home, right? And if you don't have a whole weight set and things like that, you can still have a mat and do yoga at home. And it's the way you describe how it can make you feel and really, you know, I think help lose weight in the long run, because you're not going to be craving so much all the you know, tons of food maybe that you were used to wanting to eat before that made you feel better. And yoga will help flush out a lot of the anxieties and feelings of depression as well. And let us know, viewers and listeners, if you do yoga and if you enjoy it, in the comments below. And you know, it can have just a very holistic way to make you feel better physically. Can be a good exercise to do daily that won't take a ton of time, and can help you just have so much clarity up here, right? So I think that's great that you encourage people to do that you did it for all those years as well. Growing up, that's pretty amazing. And it's just, you know, it can be just a really, really great thing to incorporate. Hopefully I can try to be better at it myself sometime and do, you know, incorporate in my life. But, you know, and Tyler, just as we conclude this episode, and time goes so fast as it usually does when we speak on SpirLift with all these, you know, amazing conversations, is that right now, today, what would be your message to someone out there who, you know, like feels like they don't really value who they are, or, you know, think that their life truly matters that much, you know, and like, what would just be your golden sort of nugget of advice to them to say, hey, look, I know you're feeling like this. I know you see yourself this way. I know that life can be, you know, overwhelming sometimes, but however, and then how would you complete that phrase? Like, how would you just motivate someone to, you know, start their life anew today?
Yeah, absolutely. Life can be very challenging. You know, it's very, very hard sometimes, but every life holds value, including yours, including mine. And, we have so much to offer this world, and we have so much to offer ourselves, and so many of us who are in that dark place, we don't feel lovable, and we don't feel like we measure up. And I think, first of all, just reminding yourself that you are enough just as you are, to have grace for yourself in those moments, and to start to remember that the person that can love you best is you, and it can be really challenging sometimes to do that, but start small, and I tell people just to schedule it into their day. Like we value other people so much more. We love other people so much better than we love ourselves. We say things to ourselves that we would never tell other people. I tell people to think about the words that they say themselves, and I was like, would you ever say that to somebody else? And why would you say that to yourself? Why would you think of yourself that way? Like you don't hold the same kind of value and worth than all these other people. You're just as worthy. We all came from the same place. You're just as worthy as them. And you take time out of your day for them. You have meetings scheduled with people all the time. Schedule a meeting with yourself. Value your time. And do something that makes you feel good, and self-care often looks like this indulgent thing, like, oh, I ate ice cream today, hashtag self-care, and it's like, sure, yeah, treat yourself. But self-care can also look like practical things like eating healthier food, like I'm going to take care of my body today by doing that. Or, I have so much anxiety because I have all this stuff to get done that just never gets done. And my self-care today is going to be writing a to-do list and checking every single one of those boxes, all those things that never get done, so that when I sit down to work tomorrow, I don't have any of that stress of all the stuff I didn't get done this weekend. Self-care is just what you need. And sometimes we've been beating ourselves up for so long that we lose touch with ourselves. We don't even know what we need anymore. And if you're in that place, I say just schedule the 5 minutes with yourself and sit there and just breathe and just connect with yourself for a moment. And if you have to do that today, tomorrow, for a week, whatever it is, so just sit there for just a few moments and breathe, and you'll become more in tune with yourself. And one of those breathing sessions, you're going to say, you know what? Feel really good to go for a walk. Get up and go for the walk. You deserve it. You are enough as you are. You are worthy. Have grace for yourself and start to show yourself some love. And it'll make you even, more capable of loving others. And I think that's one of the best things we can do in this life is value ourselves, and love other people.
That is so powerful, Tyler, and just incredible, really. And I think the way you described it, I just felt kind of overwhelmed because I think it was just really impactful what you said. And the power of what we can do, and I think throughout this whole conversation, you were giving this kind of insight, is that the more we really are spending time, and this is not all fast, impactful changes right away. These are small incremental changes that build up. And I like what it's not going to leave my mind, this phrase you use about momentum, because I think momentum is just really the consistency of moving ahead in a natural way that feels right for you, that you feel good with, and just that daily reminder of self-love, self-care, and encouragement to yourself that, like anything good in life, over time will just blossom into something really, really, truly special for you. We're not talking about anybody else. We're talking about you right now. Mm-hmm. How amazing you are, how amazing your life is, how amazing we are individually with, and just embracing that. And it's a beautiful thing. And, oh man. All of our viewers and listeners, please, I really heavily encourage you, if you're interested in this theme and topic and everything that we've been speaking about in this episode of SpirLift, please check out Tyler. Please connect with her. Please, wherever you are, especially with a certain state, how you feel that you're not good with, Tyler can help you. She will definitely be a great go-to person to help change your life around. So Tyler, where can people find out more about you, connect with you? I guess you can help people anywhere in the world remotely. Where can they find out more about Evolve? Can you please let people know where to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple different channels. So on Instagram and Facebook for Evolve, the holistic health side of things, you can find me at Tyler Didra Evolve, or on Twitter at TDidra Evolve. And then I have my blog, Tyler V. Lane, and that's where you can find more Evolve stuff, but also more like the lifestyle end of things. And that's on all those same channels, Tyler V. Lane, except for Facebook. And then I have Tyler V. Lane also on Pinterest, where I have lots of like regular stuff like DIY, and I love elephants, so there's elephants everywhere. But some more healthy recipes and workouts and stuff like that.
Wow, you have a great array of interesting things to share and involve people. This is pretty great. And for all of you listeners, definitely check out her blog, especially with the section about the food. It'll instantly make you want to switch to the foods that she's been speaking about. I know it has for me. I saw some of those recipes and I'm like, wow, I gotta switch from this delicious T-bone steak to one of those other fish related vegetable. It looked so well presented. There's no way you can resist it. So Tyler, thank you so much for this amazing episode of SpirLift. Just very encourage all of our viewers, listeners, remember what Tyler said about momentum. Keep the word momentum in your mind, in your spirit, in your way of being each and every day. Momentum is about what feels good for you, what is natural for you, one day at a time, and create the changes you want and need, and find the accountability partner too that can really encourage you along the way. So Tyler, thank you so much for being on this episode of SpirLift.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll see you all on the next episode. Take care, everyone.